Today we got an update on some breaking pitching injuries for the Boston Red Sox, but I don't think it's time to panic yet about this starting rotation, and let me tell you why. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and this morning we got a couple of updates on a couple of different pitchers and their status for opening day. We got updates on James Paxton and what his injury looks like. We got updates on Brayan Bello and how his progression looks like, and we've got updates on Garrett Whitlock and what he is going to look like at the beginning of the season. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to go over all of these pitching injury updates. We're going to talk about how it affects each player, and we're going to talk about how it may affect the opening day rotation for the Boston Red Sox and what the rotation could look like at the beginning of the year. Plus, we're going to talk about why I don't think it's time to panic yet about this Red Sox rotation. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps this video out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so I think the best place to start when we're going over these injuries is to start with sort of the biggest, most recent one, and that is James Paxton's injury. Yesterday, James Paxton made his first start in spring training, and it actually was going pretty well. His fastball looked really good, sitting between 93 and 94. His off-speed pitches were getting dumped in the zone and striking guys out looking. He looked really great coming back from injury. Unfortunately, though, he only made it through 1 2/3 innings before he was pulled from the game with what looked like a leg cramp at the time. He actually did an interview with Rob Bradford after the game talking about how he feels pretty good about it. He doesn't know whether it was a strain or maybe just a cramp or what, but he didn't think it was going to be anything major. Well, today we got more news about James Paxton's injury and what it officially is, because this morning it was announced that James Paxton has a grade 1 hamstring strain, very, very similar to the same thing Connor Wong suffered just yesterday. Pretty much in the same boat for recovery time. 2 to 8 weeks is what it takes to get back from a grade 1 strain, so it's not entirely guaranteed that James Paxton will miss the beginning of this season, but it is a possibility that he is not ready to go come opening day. This doesn't mean he's going to be out for an extended period of time or anything, but he may miss a couple of weeks of the regular season. Alex Cora spoke about James Paxton today, and here's what he had to say. Alex Cora was quoted talking to media by Ian Brown on James Paxton, and Alex Cora said that it's a strain. We'll know how he's reacting. If we need imaging, we'll do it. Right now, we don't feel that way. He's going to fall a bit behind here, but worst case scenario, it's actually best case scenario. It doesn't look that bad. So it doesn't really sound like James Paxton's in a ton of pain. It doesn't sound like James Paxton's going to need to miss an extended period of time, but this is going to set him back, and it most likely means that he will not start the year in the rotation for the Boston Red Sox. Outside of that too, we do have some updates on Brayan Bello, who, as many of you know, has been dealing with some forearm soreness at the beginning of spring training, and while he is feeling much better because he did have that forearm soreness to begin spring training, he is a bit behind. What this means, most likely similar to James Paxton, is that he will not be ready to go come opening day. It most likely means he's going to be either on the IL or doing rehab starts to begin the year, probably looking at 1 to 2 weeks behind what he should be, and probably 1 to 2 weeks out of him being in this rotation come opening day. So it realistically means that Brayan Bello will probably rejoin this Red Sox team within the first couple of weeks of the season. So again, it is an injury. It is something that's going to keep Brayan Bello out of this rotation for a little bit, but again, it's not something that we need to start being like, oh no, what are we going to do with the rotation? We need to trade for someone. We need to sign somebody, right? It just sort of means that, hey, for the first couple of weeks, we're going to be Paxton-less, we're going to be Bello-less. On top of that too, Garrett Whitlock is also kind of in a similar boat, but for a little bit of a different situation. As you guys know, Garrett Whitlock got surgery on his hip this offseason, and as it turns out, he wasn't as ready to go as he thought he was coming into spring training camp. He did have a couple of setbacks so far, and again, he's kind of in a similar boat to Brayan Bello. It's not anything new. It's not something that's going to be keeping him out for the entire year, but it does mean that he is slower to ramp up than a lot of other pitchers in camp. What this most likely means for Garrett Whitlock is exactly the same thing it means for Brayan Bello. It means that he may or may not be ready to go for opening day. Most people are leaning towards he won't be right now. It's probably going to be, again, another week, another 2 weeks before Garrett Whitlock joins the team during the regular regular season. So all in all, right now, the Boston Red Sox have 3 of their 5 starters who are going to end up not joining the team for the start of the regular season. Like I said in the intro, like I've said throughout the entirety that we've talked about this stuff, it may not be time to panic yet, and let me tell you why. This is sort of exactly why the Boston Red Sox named so many people as starters during the offseason. We talked about it numerous times on this channel. Why do they have so many starters? It's going to crowd the rotation. It's going to be tough for guys to find spots within this roster if they're all starting pitchers. Well, now we know exactly why, because now the Red Sox have guys that can step up and be in this rotation without giving up too much potential in terms of success, right? So now, instead of the opening day rotation looking something like Sale, Kluber, Paxton, Whitlock, Bello, it's going to look something like Sale, Kluber, Pivetta, Houck, Crawford, which isn't a bad thing at all. Again, this isn't going to be our starting rotation for the entire year. It's just going to be the rotation to start off the first couple of weeks of the season. Now, in terms of Pivetta, Houck, and Crawford, I actually kind of like this idea. I really like Tanner Houck. His control was an issue in his first start, but again, he hadn't pitched since his back surgery at the end of last year, so it had been a while. Obviously, that control is going to be a little bit off. His stuff still looked absolutely disgusting. I think that he could really do well in a starting role. He used a changeup more often in his first start in spring training, so if he adds in that third pitch and he can actually utilize it during the regular season, I think he could be a great pitcher, and I don't think it's going to be too much of a skill gap when you exchange Garrett Whitlock for Tanner Houck within this rotation. As for Pivetta, we kind of know what we're getting from Pivetta, right? It's not going to be the greatest statistics in the world, but he's going to be healthy for opening day. He's going to be ready to go, and he's going to give you some solid starts at the beginning of the year. Whether or not he stays in this rotation is kind of an interesting question in itself. We've heard rumors over the last couple of days that Pivetta could be the odd man out when it comes to this 5-6 man rotation, which the Red Sox have not confirmed or denied yet. It sounds like there are some rumblings of Pivetta not being in this rotation, but as of right now, with these injuries, he will be. And again, we kind of know what we're getting from Pivetta. We are getting solid every 5th day starts from a guy who's not going to light the world on fire. And Cutter Crawford, in my opinion, was one of the more underrated parts of the 2022 season. He had a stretch there where he played against the Yankees, the Astros, and the Mariners, where he did really, really well. He shut all of those big name teams down, and he did it in a pretty spectacular fashion, striking out a ton of guys. Now, obviously, there were downsides to his 2022 campaign as well, but there is still a lot of potential there. Personally, going into 2023, I saw Cutter Crawford as sort of a long relief type option in the bullpen, but because of these injuries, again, it's more than likely he's going to end up in the rotation come opening day. All in all, like I said, none of these injuries are going to be ones that keep guys out for the entirety of the year. The hamstring's probably going to bother Paxton for a little bit, but it's not something that's going to end up ruining his 2023 campaign. It's just a little bit of a later start to it. As for Whitlock and Bello, they both seem to be moving along really well. It's just sort of a delay in that movement because of those injuries at the beginning of camp, either sparking back up in terms of Whitlock or showing themselves early with Brayan Bello. So again, none of these injuries are keeping guys out for a very long period of time, and I love the fact that the Red Sox this year have depth in their rotation. Last year, that was the biggest problem with this Red Sox team, was once your starters went down, you replaced them with guys who had little to no major league experience and who really weren't ready for major league pitching in terms of starting pitching, right? Connor Siebold, Josh Winkowski, guys who were close to being ready but weren't fully ready and who just simply did not succeed last year at the major league level, either due to the circumstances that they were brought up in or due to the fact that they just weren't ready. This year, it's an entirely different story, and that is the biggest reason why, in my opinion, it's simply not time to panic yet about this Red Sox starting rotation. Now, if we get to the 3rd, 4th week of the season and all of a sudden Paxton's delayed, Whitlock's still having issues, and Bello is having big issues as well, then yeah, maybe we start to hit the panic button a little bit, but because of the Red Sox depth, I do not think it is officially time to do that. But I could be wrong. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of these injuries? Do you think it's a bigger issue than how I'm portraying it? Do you agree with me that this This kind of stinks that we're not going to have our full ready to go rotation opening day, but it's not the end of the world. Let me know all your thoughts on the Red Sox rotation injuries in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seat.